In May 1941, just weeks before Hitler launched Operation Barbarossa, an unexpected German Junkers Ju-52 transport aircraft landed in Moscow, completely undetected by Soviet air defences. The plane had flown 1,230 kilometres across modern-day countries, stopping at numerous airports on its way to Moscow and even returned the same day. This wasn't just a Soviet air defence blunder, it was a spark that ignited one of Stalin's most brutal military purges, crippling the Soviet Air Force on the eve of war. On May 15, 1941, a German Ju-52 transport plane took off from Königsberg with pilot Karl Malott, flight mechanic Karl Strauss, and radio operator Walter Tarnov on board, and flew across the border towards Belostok, which had been under Soviet control since 1939. The plane made its first stop at the Bialystok-Kielan aerodrome at 15:02. Ground crew did not notify nearby counter-air defence units because their communication systems had been out of action for the last 6 days due to mechanical repairs. Soviet doctrine was to intercept the plane with Soviet fighters, but no action was taken to stop it. It is believed that the Soviet ground observers mistook the Ju-52 for an Li-2, the Soviet copy of the DC-2, and decided not to tell anyone about it. The 4th Division of the Air Defence Brigade of the Western Special Military District became aware of the plane violating its borders only after it had already travelled 29 kilometres inside its territory. It is worth noting that German airplanes frequently violated the borders of the Soviet Union. From October 1939 through to May 1941, there had been over 500 such violations. The 1st Air Defence Corps, based in Moscow, was notified by the dispatcher of the Civil Air Fleet that a non-traditional aircraft had been flying through Bialystok. On arrival in Minsk, the deputy head of the 1st Defence Corps allowed the plane to continue its flight through Smolensk and gave permission for it to land at the MV Frunze Central Airfield in Moscow, ensured that no one impeded its arrival. There are many conspiracy theories that stem from this flight, such as the plane reportedly carried a personal letter from Adolf Hitler to Joseph Stalin, to the German military testing air defences and their response times. The fact is that the plane flew across Soviet borders through heavily guarded airspace and touched down in Moscow without a single Soviet fighter intercepting it made Stalin react with paranoia and fury. Within days, Marshal Semyon Timoshenko and General Georgy Zhukov was tasked with investigating the airspace breach and ordered systematic reforms, and Stalin unleashed the NKVD. It was found that the Chief of Staff of the 4th Branch of the Air Defence was not made aware of the flight of the Ju-52 before it had landed in Moscow. The Moscow commander of the 1st Air Defence Corps did not even know anything about the flight until 2 days later. And worst of all, the commander and chief of the Red Army Air Force did receive information about the airplane. Instead of ordering it intercepted, he allowed them to land on the Moscow airfield and even asked the counter-air defence forces to enable the flight. Senior Air Force officials were arrested en masse, among them Lieutenant General Pavel Ryzhkov, a decorated commander. He and others were accused of treason, sabotage and espionage. Most were tortured, many were executed. I have covered this in my video regarding the NKVD prisoner massacres following the onset of World War II. May 30th, People's Commissioner of Ammunition, Ivan Sergeyov, and Major General Ernest Shast. May 31st, Lieutenant General Pyotr Pumpo. June 7th, People's Commissioner of Armaments, Boris Vanikov, and Head of the Main Directorate of Air Defence, Colonel General Gregor Stern, was arrested and shot on October 1941. June 8th, Lieutenant General Yakov Shmukievich. June 18th, Lieutenant General Pavlov Alexeyev. June 19th, Colonel General Alexander Loktinov. June 24th, General Kirill Meretskov and Lieutenant General Pavel Rykov. June 27th, Lieutenant General Ivan Proshkorov. All of this because a single plane landed when it was not agreed to. The timing couldn't have been worse. Just weeks later, Nazi Germany invaded the Soviet Union. The Red Army, already reeling from earlier purges, now faced the Wehrmacht with a gutted leadership and a shattered morale. Please do like and subscribe if you'd like me to keep covering topics from the Soviet Union that are little understood or discussed. Have a great day.